Chapter 4, Air Force Doctrine, Air and Space Expeditionary Force, and Joint Force. 4.1 Introduction. 4.1.1 America's Air Force faces significant challenges. We have been engaged in combat for 18 years while transforming into a smaller, leaner, and more capable force. Fiscal constraints combined with operational challenges and a dynamic international security environment translate into risks we continue to manage and mitigate in order to provide capabilities America needs. The Air Force continues to fight the war on terrorism and prepares to face and overcome threats and conflicts of the future. In order to remain dominant, we must maintain our air, space, and cyberspace power advantages over potential adversaries. Modern warfare is changing. This is not new for America's airmen, whose heritage spans and embraces change, and whose culture embodies courage and innovation. 4.1.2 Meeting the challenge in this rapidly changing world requires we understand and apply Air Force doctrine. Airmen in past may have not understood or consistently applied doctrine. The complexity of integrating fighting elements and meshing joint and combined doctrine, and the uncertainty inherent in rapidly developing contingency operations demand that planning and employment be understood and repeatable. We must learn and practice our own doctrine. We know how to do it right. We have taken the time to argue it out, write it down, and publish it. We must understand what it means to be an airman, and we must be able to articulate what air and space power can bring to the joint fight. Air Force Doctrine Document 1, Air Force Basic Doctrine, is the Air Force's premier statement of our beliefs, the cornerstone upon which our service identity is based, and the source from which our doctrine flows. 4.1.3 The AEF is the Air Force methodology for presenting forces to combatant commanders. 3 principles are the foundation upon which the AEF is structured and executed: transparency, predictability, and equitability. Transparency is the sense that there is no mystery to the process. When, why, and how should be visible and understandable by every airman. Every Air Force member is responsible for knowing and understanding the AEF original structure, how we deploy today's AEF, and our goals for the future. Alignment of forces across AEF pairs or blocks allows our Air Force to determine who goes first, defines our battle rhythm, and provides a logically organized structure during surge periods to support combatant commanders. 4.1.4 Joint warfare is team warfare. Over time, the American experience in war increasingly demanded cooperation, coordination, and integration of all U.S. military services. Today, joint operations are routine and, thus, routinely practiced. Effectively integrated joint forces are able to rapidly and efficiently identify and engage adversary weak points and vulnerabilities without exposing their own weak points or seams to ensure mission accomplishment. Whether there are years to prepare and plan, as in the World War II Normandy invasion, months, as in Operation Desert Storm, or only a few weeks, as in Operation Enduring Freedom, American armed forces must always be ready to operate in smoothly functioning joint teams. Section 4B, Air Force Doctrine. 4.2 Doctrine. 4.2.1 Air Force Doctrine is a statement of officially sanctioned beliefs, warfighting principles, and terminology that describes and guides the proper use of air, space, and cyberspace power in military operations. It is what we have come to understand based on our experience to date. 4.2.2 The Air Force promulgates and teaches doctrine as a common frame of reference on the best way to prepare and employ Air Force forces. Subsequently, doctrine shapes the manner in which the Air Force organizes, trains, equips, and sustains its forces. Doctrine prepares us for future uncertainties and provides a common set of understandings on which airmen base their decisions. Doctrine consists of the fundamental principles by which military forces guide their actions in support of national objectives. It is the linchpin of successful military operations. It also provides us with common terminology, conveying precision in expressing our ideas. 4.2.3 In application, doctrine should be used with judgment, It must never be dismissed out of hand or through ignorance of its principles, nor should it be employed blindly without due regard for the mission and situation at hand. On the other hand, following doctrine to the letter is not the fundamental intent. Rather, good doctrine is something akin to a good commander's intent. It provides sufficient information on what to do, but does not specifically say how to do it. We must strive above all else to be doctrinally sound, not doctrinally bound. 4.2.4 In the current turbulent environment of expeditionary operations and the emerging arena of homeland security, doctrine provides an informed starting point for the many decisions airmen must make in what seems to be a continuous series of deployments. We no longer face the challenge of starting with a blank sheet of paper. With doctrine, airmen now have a good outline that lays out the basic issues. What is my mission? How should I approach it? What should my organization look like and why? What are my lines of authority within my organization and within the joint force? What degree of control do I have over my forces? How am I supported? Who do I call for more support? Note: from one operation to the next, many things are actually constant. Doctrine, properly applied, often can provide a 70, 80, or even 90% solution to most questions, allowing leaders to focus on the remainder, which usually involves tailoring for the specific operation. 4.2.5 Good doctrine informs, provides a sound departure point, and allows flexibility. Bad doctrine overly binds and restricts creativity. If not properly developed, and especially if parochialism is allowed to creep in, doctrine will point to suboptimal solutions. Parochialism and other biases can come from within a service as well as between services. Professionals will still have honest differences in opinions, but when those opinions are not based on sound warfighting practices, inefficiency and ineffectiveness frequently result. Good doctrine can help, but it must be intelligently applied. 4.2.6 Doctrine is about warfighting, not physics. This principle specifically addresses the perceived differences between operations in air, space, and cyberspace. Air, space, and cyberspace are separate domains, requiring exploitation of different sets of physical laws to operate in, but are linked by the effects they can produce together. To achieve a common purpose, air, space, and cyberspace need to be integrated. Therefore, Air Force doctrine focuses on the best means to obtain warfighting effects, regardless of the domain in which a platform operates. As an example, airmen should be concerned with the best means of employing intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capabilities, not whether a particular intelligence, surveillance, or reconnaissance platform is airborne or in orbit, or manned or unmanned. This is requisite to achieving true integration across any given collection of forces. 4.2.7 Doctrine is about effects, not platforms. This focuses on the desired outcome of a particular action, not on the system or weapon itself that provides the effect. For example, doctrine states that airmen should seek to achieve air superiority, but doctrine does not focus on which platform should be used to achieve that effect. A parallel example is seen in the recognition that bombers are not strategic, nor are fighters tactical. It does not matter if an F-16 or a B-52 accomplishes a given task, whether a particular platform is manned or unmanned, or whether a C-17 or a C-130 delivers a certain load, or if a particular intelligence, surveillance, or reconnaissance platform is airborne or in orbit. The outcome of the mission, the effect achieved, is what's important. Thus, Air Force doctrine does not explicitly tie specific weapon systems to specific tasks or effects. 4.2.8 Doctrine is about using domains, not owning domains. This illustrates the importance of properly using a domain to obtain the best warfighting effects, not of carving up the operational environment based on service or functional parochialism. Focusing on using a domain is a vital first step in integration of efforts. Ownership arguments eventually lead to suboptimal, and usually at best tactical, application of efforts at the expense of the larger total effort. 4.2.9 Doctrine is about organization, not organizations. Modern warfare demands that disparate parts of different services, different nations, and even differing functions within a single service be brought together intelligently to achieve unity of effort and unity of command. However, merely placing different organizations together in an area of operations is insufficient to meet these demands. A single cohesive organization is required with clearly defined lines of command and commanders with requisite authorities at appropriate levels. Doctrine explains why certain organizational structures are preferred over others and describes effective command relationships and command authorities. This facilitates the rapid stand-up of joint and service organizations during rapidly evolving situations. Ultimately, doctrine is not about whether one particular element is more decisive than another, nor about positing that element as the centerpiece of joint operations. It's the total, tailored joint force that's decisive. Getting to that effective joint force requires smart organization. 4.2.10. Doctrine is about synergy, not segregation. True integration of effort cannot be achieved by merely carving up the operational environment. While segregation may have some benefit and may appear the simplest way from a command and control viewpoint to manage elements of a diverse joint force, it may actually sub-optimize the overall effort. It guarantees that the whole will never be greater than the sum of its parts. For example, airmen should have access to the entire theater of operations to maximize their ability to achieve the Joint Force Commander's objectives. They should not be restricted from any area due to unnecessarily restrictive fire support coordination measures. Also, segregating the operational environment into smaller areas of operation may create competition for scarce, high-demand, low-density capabilities and reduce combat effectiveness. 4.2.11. Doctrine is about integration, not just synchronization. According to Joint Publication 1-02, Department of Defense Dictionary of Military and Associated Terms, synchronization is the arrangement of military actions in time, space, and purpose to produce maximum relative combat power at a decisive place and time. Integration, by comparison, is the arrangement of military forces and their actions to create a force that operates by engaging as a whole. Synchronization is, in essence, deconfliction in time and space between different units. It is a useful means to plan and execute operations and to prevent fratricide. Synchronization emphasizes timing, while integration considers priority and effect to be both efficient and effective with scarce resources. Synchronization is bottom-up. Integration, on the other hand, starts at the top with a single cohesive plan and works downward. Synchronization is an additive sum-of-the-parts model, while integration may produce geometric results. This is not to say that synchronization is bad. For surface forces, it is very useful for managing their scheme of maneuver. However, from an airman's perspective, synchronization is a tactical tool and doesn't necessarily scale up to the operational level. Thus, airmen should seek to integrate, not merely synchronize, joint operational planning. 4.2.12. Doctrine is about what's important, not who's important. Good doctrine should point to the important things a commander should do and explain why they should be done. It should not be an advertisement for any particular element of the U.S. Air Force, nor assert the relative value of any one service over another. Different parts of the U.S. Armed Forces do different things, and each has its own utility depending on the situation. It's all about the right capability to best accomplish the mission. 4.2.13. Doctrine is about the right force, not just equal shares of the force. This addresses the proper mix of service components within a joint force. Some believe that a joint force requires equal parts of all the services. This is incorrect. As one senior U.S. Air Force officer said, joint warfighting is not like Little League Baseball, where everybody gets a chance to play. Any given joint force should be tailored appropriately for the task at hand. Some operations will be land-centric, others air-centric, and others maritime-centric. The composition of the joint force and the tasks assigned to its various elements should reflect the needs of the situation.